12.25 at Savatthi. Then in the evening, the Venerable Bhumija emerged from seclusion and approached the Venerable Sariputta. He exchanged greetings with the Venerable Sariputta, and when they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, they sat down to one side. Stop here for a moment. Here you see, in the evening, when Venerable Bhumija emerged from seclusion, he approached the Venerable Sariputta. You see, during the Buddha's days, the monks sometimes, like they go into the forest to meditate. There might be 2 of them, or might be 3 of them, or might be 4 of them. So they go on alms round, and they come back, they eat their food. Then they each go off to a secluded spot to be alone, and they practice meditation. And then the whole day they will be meditating. But when the sun goes down, when the sun sets, they all come to the most senior monk. They come to the most senior monk and they discuss Dhamma. They have so much respect for Dhamma that every night they will discuss Dhamma. Even though they are Arahants also, they still discuss Dhamma because of respect for Dhamma. So in this case, the most senior monk there was Venerable Sariputta. So Venerable Bhumija came to him. Venerable Bhumija said, "Friend Sariputta," this friend is a translation for Avuso. During the Buddha's days, the monks called each other Avuso. You can translate it as reverend, or you can translate it as friend. Friend Sariputta, some ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, maintain that pleasure and pain are created by oneself. Some ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, maintain that pleasure and pain are created by another. Some ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, maintain that pleasure and pain are created both by oneself and another, etc. Now, friend Sariputta, what does the Blessed One say about this? What does he teach? How should we answer if we are to state what has been said by the Blessed One and not misrepresent him with what is contrary to fact? And how should we explain in accordance with the Dhamma so that no reasonable consequence of our assertion would give grounds for criticism? And Venerable Sariputta said, "Friend, the Blessed One has said that pleasure and pain are dependently arisen. Dependent on what? Dependent on contact. If one were to speak thus, one would be stating what has been said by the Blessed One and would not misrepresent him with what is contrary to fact. One would explain in accordance with the Dhamma, and no reasonable consequence of one's assertion would give grounds for criticism. Therein, friend, in the case of those ascetics and Brahmins, proponents of karma, who maintain that pleasure and pain are created by oneself, and those who maintain that pleasure and pain are created by another, and those who maintain that pleasure and pain are created both by oneself and by another, and those who maintain that pleasure and pain have arisen fortuitously, being created neither by oneself nor by another. In each case that is conditioned by contact. Therein, friends, in each case it is impossible that they will experience anything without contact." The Venerable Ananda heard this conversation between the Venerable Sariputta and the Venerable Bhumija. He then approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side, and reported to the Blessed One the entire conversation between the Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Bhumija. The Blessed One said, Good Ananda. Anyone answering rightly would answer just as Sariputta has done." And then he repeated, just like just now. And then towards the end he said, "Ananda, when there is a body, because of bodily volition, pleasure and pain arise internally. When there is speech, because of speech, verbal volition, pleasure and pain arise internally. When there is the mind, because of mental volition, pleasure and pain arise internally, and with ignorance as condition. Either on one's own initiative, Ananda, one generates that body volition, condition by which pleasure and pain arise internally, or prompted by others, one generates that body volition, condition by which pleasure and pain arise internally. Either mindfully, Ananda, one generates that body volition, condition by which pleasure and pain arise internally, or unmindfully, one generates that body volition, condition by which pleasure and pain arise internally. Stop here for a moment. This last part, I said either mindfully or unmindfully, one generates the body volition. Here it translates as either deliberately or undeliberately. I think it's not quite correct, because the Pali word is sampajano. Sampajano normally means mindfully, in full awareness. Because if you generate volition, if you generate karma, it's always deliberately. If there is no intention, there is no karma. So probably the better word is mindfully or unmindfully. Similarly, the Buddha says, either on one's own initiative or prompted by others, or mindfully or unmindfully, one generates verbal karma, and then similarly mental karma. And then the Buddha finally says, ignorance is comprised within these states, but with the remainderless fading away and cessation of ignorance, that body does not exist, condition by which that pleasure and pain arise internally. That speech does not exist, condition by which pleasure and pain arise internally. That mind does not exist, condition by which pleasure and pain arise internally. That feel does not exist, that sight does not exist, that base does not exist, that foundation does not exist, condition by which the pleasure and pain arise internally. That's the end of the sutta. This the first part is similar to the previous sutta, but the last part here, the Buddha says that we create body volition, that means body karma. Here the Pali word is kaya sancetana, and then the second thing is verbal volition, vaci sancetana. The third one is mental volition, mano sancetana. So because of creating this karma, so pleasure and pain arise. Pleasure and pain arise. Now what I'd like to mention here is these three sets, kaya sancetana, vaci sancetana, and mano sancetana, is concerned with doing karma. And whenever karma is involved, the last part is always mano. Here is mano sancetana. This I have mentioned previously. When we talk about sankhara, also it's the same. If the sankharas, the three sankharas, kaya sankhara, vaci sankhara, and mano sankhara, if it has got to do with karma, creating of karma, it's always mano, just like here. But when it concerns the dependent origination, it is the other set of three sankharas that is involved. That means kaya sankhara, vaci sankhara, and chitta sankhara. So here I like to mention this because whenever we have karma, it's always mano. Here is mano sancetana, sometimes mano sankhara. So the commentaries they interpret this sankhara in the Paticcasamuppada, dependent origination, as karma, creating of karma. I think that is a mistake because they have confused that mano sankhara with the chitta sankhara. That's the end of that sutta. Now we come to 12.31. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Savatthi. There the Blessed One addressed the Venerable Sariputta thus. Sariputta, in the questions of Ajita in the Parayana, it is said, those who have comprehended the Dhamma and the manifold trainees here asked about their way of conduct, being discreet. Tell me, dear sir, how should the meaning of this, stated in brief, be understood in detail? Let's stop here for a moment. This Parayana is a chapter from the Sutta Nipata, which is a book in the Khuddaka Nikaya, the last Nikaya. But Sutta Nipata is considered one of the old books, one of the original teachings of the Buddha. So here the Buddha is asking the Venerable Sariputta, in this particular sutta concerning the questions of Ajita, there is a verse there that says, those who have comprehended the Dhamma and the manifold trainees here asked about their way of conduct, being discreet. Tell me, dear sir. So the Buddha is asking him, how do you explain this? And this was said, the Venerable Sariputta was silent. The second time and the third time, the Blessed One addressed the Venerable Sariputta thus. In the same way, Sariputta, in the questions of Ajita and the Parayana, it is said, etc., etc. How should the meaning of this stated in brief be understood in detail? The second time and the third time, the Venerable Sariputta was silent. So the Venerable Sariputta was not sure how to answer, so he kept quiet. Then the Buddha said, Sariputta, do you see? This has come to be. Sariputta, do you see? This has come to be. So the Buddha prompted him, and he said, Venerable Sir, one sees as it really is with correct wisdom. This has come to be. Having seen as it really is with correct wisdom, this has come to be. One is practicing for the purpose of revulsion towards what has come to be, for its fading away and cessation. One sees as it really is with correct wisdom. Its origination occurs with that as nutriment. Having seen as it really is with correct wisdom, its origination occurs with that as nutriment. One is practicing for the purpose of revulsion towards its origination through nutriment, for its fading away and cessation. One sees as it really is with correct wisdom, with the cessation of that nutriment, what has come to be is subject to cessation. Having seen as it really is with correct wisdom, with the cessation of that nutriment, what has come to be is subject to cessation. One is practicing for the purpose of revulsion towards what is subject to cessation, for its fading away and cessation. It is in such a way that one is a trainee. And how, Venerable Sir, has one comprehended the Dhamma? Venerable Sir, one sees as it really is with correct wisdom. This has come to be. Having seen as it really is with correct wisdom, this has come to be through revulsion towards what has come to be, through its fading away and cessation. One is liberated by non-clinging. One sees as it really is with correct wisdom. Its origination occurs with that as nutriment. Having seen as it really is with correct wisdom, its origination occurs with that as nutriment. Through revulsion towards its origination through nutriment, through its fading away and cessation, one is liberated by non-clinging. One sees as it really is with correct wisdom. With the cessation of that nutriment, what has come to be is subject to cessation. Having seen as it really is with correct wisdom, with the cessation of that nutriment, what has come to be is subject to cessation. Through revulsion towards what is subject to cessation, through its fading away and cessation, one is liberated by non-clinging. It is in such a way that one has comprehended the Dhamma. Thus, Venerable Sir, when it is said in the questions of Ajita in the Parayana, those who have comprehended the Dhamma and the manifold trainees here asked about their way of conduct, being discreet, tell me, dear Sir. It is in such a way that I understand in detail the meaning of this that was stated in brief. Good, Sariputta. And the Buddha repeats the entire statement of the Venerable Sariputta. It is in such a way that the meaning of this stated in brief should be understood in detail. That's the end of the sutta. So here you see, the Buddha asked him a question, asked Venerable Sariputta. Although he is the disciple with the highest wisdom, he also found it a bit difficult to answer. He didn't know exactly what the Buddha wanted him to say. So when the Buddha prompted him by saying, Sariputta, do you see, this has come to be, then he caught the clue. So he answered the Buddha. First he explained about the trainee. That means the trainee here refers to the Pali word Sekha. Sekha is one who is still training, and it means the Aryans below the Arahant. There are 8 types of Aryans, noble ones, holy persons. The lowest is the first path, and then that first path after some time will automatically become the first fruit. And then the second path attainer, and then the second fruit, third path attainer, third fruit, and fourth path attainer, and fourth fruit. These are the 8 types of holy men, Aryans. Out of these 8, only the Arahant, the fourth fruit person, or the Buddha and Arahant are both fourth fruit attainers. Only the fourth fruit attainer has completed his work, so he's called Asekha. One who does not need to train anymore, whereas the other 7 are called Sekha, trainees. So here the Venerable Sariputta is explaining what is the state of the trainee. The Venerable Sariputta says a trainee, he will see with wisdom, this has come to be, something that exists has come into existence, and then it originates because of certain conditions which we call nutriment. Nutriment is the condition for that thing to come into existence, and then he also sees with the cessation of that nutriment, what has come to be is subject to cessation. Then, having seen this, the trainee is practicing for the purpose of revulsion towards what is subject to cessation. For example, the things in the world, for example, somebody that you love is subject to cessation, subject to aging, sickening, and dying. So you see that this person that you love, because they is subject to cessation, and it is dependent on certain conditions to keep it alive. And so the trainee, he is practicing for the purpose of revulsion towards what is subject to cessation. This that we cling to, if we see that is impermanent, that is subject to cessation, then if you are practicing for the purpose of revulsion, disenchantment towards this that we attach to, then one is a trainee. You are practicing to let go. Practicing to let go. You are a trainee, one who has seen but has not finished the work. Whereas the Arahant, he sees the same thing, but he has revulsion. He already has achieved revulsion towards what has come to be. Revulsion towards its origination through nutriment, and so on, through revulsion towards what is subject to cessation, through its fading away and cessation. One is liberated by non-clinging. It is in such a way that one has comprehended the Dhamma. So one who has comprehended the Dhamma fully, one who has finished his work, he has total revulsion towards all that is subject to cessation, all the things in the world being impermanent. If we cling to it, we will suffer. So the Arahant, he has totally become disenchanted with everything in the world, and he lets go. So then he has comprehended the Dhamma. That's the difference. One is practicing towards that state, whereas the other one has already achieved revulsion. 12.32 at Savatthi. Then the monk Kalara, the Khattiya, approached the Venerable Sariputta and exchanged greetings with him. When they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, he sat down to one side and said to the Venerable Sariputta, "Friend Sariputta, the monk Molya Paguna has abandoned the training and returned to the lower life." And Venerable Sariputta said, "Then surely that Venerable did not find solace or comfort in this Dhamma Vinaya." And this Venerable Kalara, he said, "Well then, has the Venerable Sariputta attained solace in this Dhamma Vinaya?" And Venerable Sariputta said, "I have no perplexity, friend." That means I have no doubt. "But as to the future, friend," Venerable Kalara asked again. And Venerable Sariputta replied, "I have no doubt, friend." Then the monk Kalara, the Khattiya, rose from his seat and approached the Blessed One. Let's stop here for a moment. So here, the Venerable Kalara informed Venerable Sariputta that this Molya Paguna has disrobed. Then the Venerable Sariputta said, then it surely means that this person who disrobed, he did not find comfort in this Dhamma Vinaya. Then this Venerable Kalara asked him, "You mean to say, Venerable Sariputta, you have found comfort in this Dhamma Vinaya?" And Venerable Sariputta said, "I have no doubt at all." Then he asked him, "What about the future?" He also says he has no doubt. Then this Venerable Kalara went to see the Buddha. Having approached, he paid homage to the Blessed One, sat down to one side and said to him, "Venerable Sir, the Venerable Sariputta has declared final knowledge thus. I understand. Destroyed is birth. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of being. I'll stop here for a moment. So you see, this monk, Clara, he asked the Venerable Sariputta whether Sariputta has found comfort in the Dhammavinaya. And Venerable Sariputta says he has no doubt. That means he has found comfort in the Dhammavinaya. But this Kepo, this Venerable Clara, he went to tell the Buddha a different thing. Okay? Instead of repeating exactly what Venerable Sariputta said, he said, Venerable Sariputta says he has declared final knowledge. That means he has attained Arahanthood. So that's why a lot of people are like this. Sometimes you hear something and then you interpret something else and then you go and tell somebody else in a different way and misunderstandings arise. So this is what happened in this case also. Then the Blessed One addressed a certain monk thus, "Come monk, tell Sariputta in my name that the teacher calls him." "Yes, Venerable Sir," that monk replied. And he went to the Venerable Sariputta and told him, "The teacher calls you, friend Sariputta." "Yes, friend," the Venerable Sariputta replied. And he approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him and sat down to one side. The Blessed One then said to him, "Is it true, Sariputta, that you have declared final knowledge thus? I understand. Destroyed is birth. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of being." Stop here for a moment. So in the Buddha's Vinaya, among even you have attained Arahanthood, liberation, you are not supposed to declare it publicly. So the Buddha asked Venerable Sariputta, whether you said you already attained Arahanthood. Then the Venerable Sariputta said, "Venerable Sir, I did not state the matter in those terms and phrases." That means I didn't say exactly that way. And then the Buddha said, "In whatever way, Sariputta, a clansman declares final knowledge. What he has declared should be understood as such." So the Buddha says, it doesn't matter how you say it. If you say you have finished your work, then you have declared that, people understand that you have finished your work. And then Venerable Sariputta said, "Venerable Sir, didn't I too speak thus? Venerable Sir, I did not state the matter in those terms and phrases." So you see, Venerable Sariputta also is quite tough. He has to stand up to the Buddha. He said, "Didn't I tell you? I didn't say like that, ma." And then the Buddha said, "If Sariputta, they were to ask you, 'Friend Sariputta, how have you known, how have you seen that you have declared final knowledge thus? I understand. Destroyed is birth. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of being. Being asked thus, how would you answer?" So here the Buddha kind of changes the topic, ask him something else. And he said, "If they were to ask me this, Venerable Sir, I would answer thus. With the destruction of the source from which birth originates, I have understood. When the cause is destroyed, the effect is destroyed. Having understood this, I understand. Destroyed is birth, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of being. Being asked thus, Venerable Sir, I would answer in such a way." I stop here for a moment. So here you see, Venerable Sariputta also is quite blunt. He said, if somebody asks me, "How you know you have finished your work?" He said, I will answer with the destruction of the source from which birth originates. I have understood. That means, if I have destroyed the source of birth, then I have understood that I have destroyed the cause of birth. Then because I have destroyed the cause of birth, therefore birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. In other words, what work had to be done, I have done. And then the Buddha said, "But Sariputta, if they were to ask you, 'But friend Sariputta, what is the source of birth? What is its origin? From what is it born and produced?' Being asked thus, how would you answer?" If they were to ask me this, Venerable Sir, I would answer thus. Birth, friends, has being as its source, being as its origin. It is born and produced from being. Being asked thus, Venerable Sir, I would answer in such a way. And the Buddha said, but Sariputta, if they were to ask you, but friend Sariputta, what is the source of being? Being asked thus, how would you answer? If they were to ask me this, Venerable Sir, I would answer thus, being, friends, has clinging or attachment as its source. But Sariputta, if they were to ask you, but friend Sariputta, what is the source of clinging or attachment? What is the source of craving? What is its origin? From what is it produced? From what is it born and produced? Being asked this, how would you answer? If they were to ask me this, Venerable Sir, I would answer thus. Craving, friends, has feeling as its source, feeling as its origin. It is born and produced from feeling. Being asked this, Venerable Sir, I would answer in such a way. But Sariputta, if they were to ask you, friend Sariputta, how have you known, how have you seen that delight in feelings no longer remains present in you? Being asked this, how would you answer? If they were to ask me this, Venerable Sir, I would answer thus. Friends, there are these three feelings. What three? Pleasant feeling, painful feeling, neither painful nor pleasant feeling. These three feelings, friends, are impermanent. Whatever is impermanent is suffering. When this was understood, delight in feelings no longer remain present in me. Being asked thus, Venerable Sir, I would answer in such a way. Good, Sariputta. This is another method of explaining in brief the same point. Whatever is felt is included within suffering. But Sariputta, if they were to ask you, friend Sariputta, through what kind of deliverance have you declared final knowledge thus? I understand, destroyed is birth, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done, there is no more for this state of being. Being asked thus, how would you answer? If they were to ask me this, Venerable Sir, I would answer thus. Friends, through an internal deliverance, through the destruction of all clinging, I dwell mindfully in such a way that the asavas do not flow within me, and I do not despise myself. Being asked thus, Venerable Sir, I would answer in such a way. Good, Sariputta. This is another method of explaining in brief that same point. I have no perplexity in regard to the asavas spoken of by the ascetic. I do not doubt that they have been abandoned by me. This is what the Blessed One said. Having said this, the Fortunate One rose from his seat and entered his dwelling. Then soon after the Blessed One had departed, the Venerable Sariputta addressed the monks thus. Friends, the first question that the Blessed One asked me had not been previously considered by me. Thus I hesitated over it. But when the Blessed One approved of my answer, it occurred to me, if the Blessed One were to question me about this matter with various terms and with various methods for a whole day I would be able to answer him with various terms and with various methods. If he were to question me about this matter with various terms and with various methods for a whole night, for a day and night, or for 2 days and nights, or 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 days and nights, for 7 days and nights I would be able to answer him with various terms and with various methods. Then the monk Kalara the Khattiya rose from his seat and approached the Blessed One. Having approached, he paid homage to the Blessed One, sat down to one side and said to him, Venerable Sir, the Venerable Sariputta has roared his lion's roar thus. Friends, the first question that the Blessed One asked me had not been previously considered by me thus I hesitated over it. But when the Blessed One approved of my answer, it occurred to me, if the Blessed One were to question me about this matter for up to 7 days and nights, I would be able to answer him with various terms and with various methods. And the Buddha said, Monk, the Venerable Sariputta has thoroughly penetrated that element of the Dhamma, by the thorough penetration of which, if I were to question him about that matter with various terms and with various methods for up to 7 days and nights, he would be able to answer me with various terms and with various methods. That's the end of the sutta. So this is, you see this kepo, last, what the Venerable Sariputta said, again he go and report to the Buddha. But since the Buddha has a high regard for the Venerable Sariputta, the Buddha agreed that if we were to question him for 7 days and 7 nights or so, he would be able to answer for 7 days and 7 nights. So this is quite an interesting sutta that shows that Sariputta is because his knowledge, his wisdom so high that he dares to answer the Buddha quite bluntly. I think we've gone through enough suttas tonight. We stop here.